Hello and welcome back to another episode of Las Platicas, the quarantine edition. Welcome back, girls. We are your hosts. I'm Sarah.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Jen.
Hi, girls. Who do we have in
Hi.
the studio? But you know, on the Zoom.
Yes. Well, like Sarah said, welcome to an abbreviated episode of Las Platicas, a show hosted by us, Comadres y Comics, where we meet with creators and friends to talk about upcoming projects, events, and all-around awesome news in the Latinx comic community. And joining us today is Mardelle Nietupski of Goat's Head Studios. And we got to learn later on, Mardelle, where that name came from. Mardelle runs Goat's Head Studios with her husband, Pat, where together they make adventure comics for all ages. They have been making comics for the web and small print for up to about 5 years now, and Mardelle is here with us today to talk to us specifically about the Kickstarter campaign that, if funded, will help to print their first full-length graphic novel, Legends of Fomora. This is where we, yay!
Yeah.
So welcome, Mardelle. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yay. Well, we're super excited too. Just a little backstory. Mardelle reached out to us through email saying that she kind of somehow discovered Comadres y Comics and started listening to our podcast and became a really big fan of our Isabel Quintero episode and was really interested in being on our podcast and didn't think that there was enough time for her to do it before her Kickstarter ended. But Sarah, being the amazing tech person that she is, basically holding up the tech part of Comadres y Comics, figured out how we could get an episode recorded and out there just in time for this Kickstarter to get more eyes on it. So thank you again for being here, Mardelle, and we'll go ahead and just jump right into it. And we'd like for you to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us and our listeners a little bit about Goat's Head Studios, specifically where that name came from, and how you began your own journey into comics.
Sure. So yeah, I started, I'm the head writer of Goat's Head Studios. It's where my husband and I make adventure comics for the young and young at heart. So that Goat's Head Studios, the name came from a pub that we used to go to in our college. Like it was just
nice.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
so
right up our alley. I love it already.
Yeah, the food was terrible, but that is the first place where I started drinking beer. So,
Nice.
wow.
Okay.
yeah, they
We're
used to
all
like
fans of
serve,
beer.
they used to serve like super big like glasses of beer. It was like, why are you serving this to college students? But we drank them, so, and we didn't drive home. We just had to walk, so that was fine.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
that's pretty good. So, what's your favorite kind of beer?
So I usually go for the sours.
Oh,
Oh,
you have a sour drinking buddy now, Sarah.
Sarah.
That sounded like probably not the best. I also like what are those really dark ones?
Porters and
Porters?
stouts.
Stouts. I
Yeah.
love a good
Okay.
stout.
Yeah.
Stouts
Yes.
are good. I like
Sarah is always forcing us to drink sour beers.
Just testing the bounds of reality.
I was gonna nice on like a hot day.
Yeah, I think so too. I was gonna ask you, does the Goat Head Pub know that you named your publishing company after them?
They do not.
Oh, free beer forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty
She's
great.
gonna be like, I heard on Comadres y Comics and we're sending a cease and desist immediately.
Oh
Oh
no,
my god.
never mind.
I don't think. I think they'd like it. Yeah.
That's cool.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So wait, where did you attend college? Was it on the East Coast?
Yeah. So it's Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's a school for engineers.
Oh,
Okay. Well, so that leads
Wow.
kind of into the second part of the question. How did you go from going to college to become an engineer to now having a comic publishing company?
So I'm still working as an engineer as my day job.
Okay.
Yeah, so Pat, or I guess Goat's Head Studio started halfway while Pat was writing Legends of Fomora. He had started writing the first portion of it, and then he got stuck and he didn't know what else to write. Like he was like, I don't have any more ideas. So he asked me to fill in with a short story. And he had never read anything that I'd written. I was always writing like prose. And so he's like, give it a try, you know, what's the worst that could happen? And he loved it. He loved it. And we had such a great like reaction from comic conventions that we went to. And then he was like, do you want to give Legends of Fomora like a go? Get us unstuck. And then I wrote the rest of it.
Oh, that's super
nice.
cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Had you been into comic books before you started writing?
Yeah, so comics are really dear to me because when the last time I moved to the US, I lived in Mexico for a while, but when I moved to the US in 8th grade, I wasn't really confident with my English and I didn't know anybody. So my sisters and I kind of spent all our time in the public library and we would just read comics from like day to night, like during our summers. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of, it helped me like not think about how stressful it was to be like in a new place, in a new country, just diving into all the, like the worlds and just kind of escaping into them.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
there has to be some sort of comic book reader there in that house. Just look at the bookshelf that she's sitting in front of.
Yeah, that's a lot of manga.
Yeah, I brought a lot of the manga, and we've been slowly like getting like other comic books. Like we have Own up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's awesome. So when Pat first started writing, were you kind of just doing the behind the scenes stuff for Goat's Head until he kind of encouraged you to start writing?
Yeah, so I worked on the editing portion. So just making sure like it all made sense. If he had missed something, giving him feedback on like the story.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's so awesome. What's it like working with your husband as a comic creative producer? What are some of the pros and some of the cons?
So overall, it's been very good working with him. Sometimes it's tough to work with strangers. It takes me personally a really long time to open up to people. So just having that relationship already there really helped us run with it, like with the comic.
Oh, that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any cons?
Any cons?
Yeah. Still the cheese man.
Cheese man.
So we both don't take criticism very well.
Okay.
And since we live in the same house, we can't just be like, oh, I'm done with this, hang up or close Zoom. We just kind of have to run away to different rooms, but we'll still see each other for dinner. So, but yeah. Also, like, I tend to, one pro, I guess, is that I can just talk to him about the comic whenever, like during the day or night. But a con about that is that we don't have the same schedules when working on comics. Mm-hmm. He works really early in the morning, and I like to work kind of late in the night. I wake up early.
I feel that.
Totally.
Super relatable.
Yeah, the early riser's Kristen, like 5 a.m. Oh my God.
That's too early. Like I have this little corgi pug. His name is Luigi. And what he'll do is Pat will leave the bed and then he'll just curl next to me and pretend like he's Pat. Like he's like, nothing happened, keep sleeping.
That's so sweet.
That's cute.
So,
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was just gonna say my dog, she goes to wake me up because needs to go to the restroom. Like a horse, actually.
Oh my god,
Funny.
that is funny. Okay, so speaking of Legends of Fomora, you currently have a Kickstarter campaign for it. Can you please share with our listeners what the story is about and how did the characters and plot develop? You said you already touched upon it, and you said that your husband was the one who was writing it. But what endeared you to the characters, or were you just like at first like, sure, let me just finish whatever it is that you got right here?
No, so Pat had fleshed out the world, so it was kind of easy from, like, sometimes when you're writing, when you have to like develop the world from scratch, it's kind of hard. So he had already put all the rules in place, like, oh, they can't just fly, you know, like, I'm like, well, could they, you know? But yeah, so what I wanted to bring to the characters was a little more in-depth version of like some of the non-main characters. Like the main character is Babe. She's sort of like an homage to Link from Zelda. Yeah, with her little green tunic and the shield. But I wanted to give the other characters a little more story, like just kind of have them, what are they dealing with? What are their monsters? And I think one of the big monsters in Legends of Fomora is fear. And it's how each of them have to deal with it. And we, not to give a lot away, but we do like deal with big issues like the death of a friend, like stuff like that. So I just wanted to show like, how do they deal with it? And I know it's like a story about like, you know, adventuring and fighting monsters, but I wanted to give it just a little more like, you know,
a little more heart.
A little more heart, yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Because like it's like especially in genres like adventure, fantasy, and stuff like that, they tend to be very very cut, copy, and paste. Most of them are very indistinguishable from the other until you fully flesh out the world and the side characters as well, because it can't just be about the main character, you know, going on an adventure and stuff like that. You got to give the side characters, you got to endear them to your readers as well, and that's what gives, not only does it make the world feel more fleshed out, but it makes you care about others, and then therefore if you really want to be mean, just like rip out their heart when something happens to them, like just be like that.
So, what's your elevator pitch at conventions to get people to come over and for you to kind of give them a little quick rundown of what the story is actually about?
So yeah, my elevator pitch is Legends of Fomora follows 3 friends on a quest to hunt down the monster that attacked their home, and they take it upon themselves to track it down. Along the way, they uncover ancient magic and get in way over their head.
Well, I have to say, I mentioned it before we started recording. I stayed up last night until 1 a.m. reading through everything that was up online. And my husband, before we started today, said, so how did you like it? And I said, you know what? Or no, he said, what's the book? And I said, I told him Legends of Samurai. And he said, what's it about? I said, it's an all ages adventure book that is really, really good. I said, the characters and the story and the world are so well developed. And every time as I was getting into the story and I was getting into that part of the story and wondering what was going to happen, the story diverts to now this is going on. And this is just as exciting and just as important to the entire ongoing overall theme and what's going on. But it's just like, oh crap, okay, now this. And then that kept happening. And then when it ended, but it didn't really end, but when I stopped reading what was offered to me, I was like, oh my God, now what am I going to do? I need to know what's happening here.
You got to back the Kickstarter. You got to back the Kickstarter.
So,
there you
talking
go.
about what I have to do, your Kickstarter campaign is actually live right now, and it's more than halfway to its goal, but there's only a few days left. So we want to know what are some of the rewards that backers get other than getting, for me, the ending of this amazing story, what are some things that are going to kind of entice our listeners to fund your Kickstarter?
Okay. So, like you already touched upon, the big reward is the book. It's 132 pages, fully colored and packed with adventure. We also have stickers of the main characters. Another one is digital commissions. And we also have a bestiary coloring book, which has some of the creatures from the world. And I wrote that. It's written in a Planet Earth style. I really wanted to like get
that's cute.
nitty-gritty. Like, where can you find these? What do they eat? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then it's also a coloring book, so that's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
So,
and
one of the things. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One of my favorite rewards is also the plushies. And
oh my God! Yes, I was telling them.
There's plushies. Oh my God!
So freaking cute. Look
That's adorable.
They're about, for people who obviously are listening to this and not watching. The plushies are about 4 inches tall or whatever this is, and they're super squishy, super soft. And you get a choice of one of the 3 main characters.
It's
awesome.
So cute. So we actually talked about this Kickstarter at the end of our last episode that we recorded, hoping that it was going to get out in time. But now if it doesn't, it's okay, because they can still somehow check you out on your website because they'll have seen this first. But when I was talking about the Kickstarter, I was telling them about the plushie, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need this plushie. And I hadn't even read the story yet. But it was so cute.
It was just so cute. Yeah.
Yes, it was so cute. But obviously the plushie is modeled after the art. Is your husband also the artist?
For the plushies, or
for the book.
Oh yeah, he's the one who drew all of it. Drew, color. Yeah.
His style is so amazing.
Yeah, it's very
colors. Yeah.
Yes, and it goes so well.
I think it's very Cartoon Network style, which is really nice. It's really cute.
Yeah, it actually kind of reminded me a little bit about of Nimona a little bit.
Ooh,
oh yeah,
that is a huge praise. I love that comic.
Yes.
It might be somewhere on another bookshelf.
Yeah, that book. And I feel like maybe your book is pulling me in the same vein, but that book was the first all ages book that I just was reading it, and then all of a sudden I just was like bawling my eyes out, and I was like, I was so into this story and so engrossed in these characters, and that's actually honestly how I felt reading your story last night. There's so much emotion that goes into the Babe's journey and where it begins and where she's starting, and absolutely you bringing up the themes of fear and all the characters, having to deal with that. It's an all ages book, but it really spans, I think, ages when it comes to people being able to identify with the characters, and that's an amazing thing to do with a book, no matter who it's modeled for or geared towards. So congratulations on that.
You've done a stupendous job.
Thanks. I'll just mention one last reward. So the last reward is the big one. It's at the Sage level. And it's just a Zoom session with me and Pat, where we'll talk about comics, creative process, basically whoever gets that level wants to talk about, and Pat will do a draw along where he just draws whatever character you want.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's really nice.
Speaking of that, that's an awesome reward. What advice would you give creators who are interested in writing an all ages comic book?
So one thing to remember is that, like, just think about what it was like to be a kid. Just put yourself in their shoes, or just, you used to be a kid before. How was that like?
What can you remember? What did you want the most?
Exactly. I wanted that Barbie car.
Okay. All right. If we're gonna go there and start, working through our latent emotional letdowns, I wanted an easy bake oven since who knows how old I was, and I asked for it and I cried over it. I'm freaking 48 years old and I still want an easy bake oven.
Hey, I'm with you on that one. I have an oven, but I want that.
Yes.
Do they still even make those?
I think so.
I think they do. It's just you can't go to Toys R Us and see them if they do have them, or who knows. It was like really popular. I'm pretty sure they're still making them.
Probably.
I mean, all the quote unquote food products from the toys back in the 80s, like I was all about it. Like there's no surprise I grew up to be a chubby Latina because I was eating all my toy food when I was a kid.
Oh my God.
The Baby Alive banana flavored food, that was my favorite.
What?
Damn.
I kind of remember. What is it? Can you tell us? Because I kind of remember, but I'm not picturing
this is in the vein of, as Mardelle suggested, if you're a creator creating for all ages, you got to remember what it was like to be a kid.
Yeah, what it is that you wanted.
What I remember is Baby Alive is a baby doll that you could put a spoon in its mouth and its lips would move to mimic the motion of eating, and it would eat the little like pudding that you mixed, and then it would go through the body and come out into a diaper.
Yep, they still made those even when I was a kid.
The thing about it is that you could eat it going in and coming out.
Ew! Oh, wow.
You know what that means? That means that you did that. You know that. That's how you just outed yourself. Incredible. Wow. Welcome to Comadres y Comics, where we talk about eating doll poop.
Doll poop.
I kind of took off topic, but not really. So, Mardelle, you want to continue with your advice to creators who are interested in writing all ages comics?
So another thing is make sure not to talk down to your audience or like symbolize.
Oh, that's a great one.
That is wonderful.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people realize just how much they talk down to kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, no, you want to, especially when you're dealing with kids, they're people. They're small people, but they are people, and they do not like being talked down to. And some of them, most of them, the older they are, the more they can distinguish when you are talking down to them, especially.
Yeah, most definitely. And, growing up, when I was reading books, if there was a word I didn't understand, I could understand it in context, or I would look it up. And that's also a kind of some way that you are teaching kids as well. So that's a really good advice. Don't talk down to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Those are two great ones, actually.
Yeah.
Just that young readers really crave real stories, just like the rest of us.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think a lot of people underestimate children's perceptiveness and ability to understand not only just emotions but also complex ideas as well. Most kids, if you shouldn't be afraid of putting this thing because they're like, oh, it might be too much for a kid. Most children will either understand it or they will ask questions to then understand it, and it's just like that's when it's not the children's discomfort, it's the adults' own discomfort of not wanting to talk to that. And you shouldn't be afraid of that because or introducing new ideas and stuff like that into your books, because the kids are going to be all right, is basically.
I really like when, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I really like when kids come to our table and just like flip through a book, like their parents just let them flip through the book and let them decide, you want this comic, like you make the decision, which I think is really nice. Like they'll flip through a couple pages and say, yeah, I really need this comic right now.
That's awesome. Have you been to any conventions out on the West Coast at all?
I have not, but I do want to make my way sideways there. Yeah, I mean, I was born in Washington State.
Okay.
But I haven't been, and we got engaged in Seattle. Actually.
Oh, okay. So you're primed to hit Emerald City some year.
Oh, I definitely want to go.
Yeah.
Like, on my top, 5 things to do after COVID.
Yeah. I mean, ECC, Emerald City Comic Con.
Yes. One of the things that we hadn't talked about yet that I did want to touch upon is the fact that visually the characters are so diverse. And I really, really loved that. And so, and it comes across as very intentional, but also it just works. So I wanted to know what the thought processes were around that. If there were any, did it just have kind of naturally happen that way? Or like, because you said Pat, sat down, worked out the world, what the rules were and stuff like that. So what were some of the thought processes behind diversity in this comic?
So yes, Pat started it, but he really wanted to make sure that, like, he and I both want to make sure that kids can see themselves. Or like, when I was younger, I read a lot of manga, and like, obviously it's black and white, but but sometimes, I couldn't see myself in any of the characters. And we just want to make sure that kids can see themselves. Like, they grab that book, they're like, that looks like me, like that person has the same color I do. And we just want to make just be able for people to just see themselves in our characters.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I don't know if it was intentional, but Babe herself looks very gender neutral. And again, this could be because she's an homage to Link or not, who himself can be very gender neutral as well. But was that done intentionally, or is it possible that, like, if there's an allusion to maybe she might be trans or anything like that? But that's what I was thinking as I was reading it as well, and I thought that was I really like that, because maybe if she isn't, there's still that ambiguity there that could be like a reflection for kids. That's pretty great.
I don't know. That's actually one thing that I don't know. Yeah, we kind of we haven't done like a lot of since they're kids, we don't introduce a lot of like romance or anything like that. So like just show their like if they're into other what gender they're into or whatnot. We just want to show them as kids, I guess. And
yeah, I'm already shipping like I don't know how many people in this.
Yeah, I actually, a future project that we're doing, we're going to be, like, we kept the current books that we have, the main character is younger and like they're kids. So our future project is going to take place in Jupiter.
Oh,
a little
sci-fi.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wrote it all. I'm just in the 3rd draft of it. But it's going to be, she's probably going to be like the main character is going to be 20 or something. So
okay.
Yeah, we're trying to go in that direction. Just
nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's so awesome.
I really like that you thought she was trans.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't sure if it was intentional or not, but that's kind of what I got across. And again, going into that diversity, even when it's not like intentional and stuff like that, you still had that kind of, it still can come across as that. And I think that's really good.
Cool.
So before Jen goes on, Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, I actually wanted to know how many conventions did you guys take this book with you on? Like because we can remember the first convention we tabled at. So I was just curious to know, like, when did you guys decide to go to conventions and actually bring this book to the public?
So I think we've been doing conventions either for 2 or 3 years. last year was our biggest convention season. I think we did either 5 to 7 conventions.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, the first convention we did, we just brought the one book, the first chapter of Legends of Fomora. We went to this convention that was just superheroes. So we didn't do that great, but we were like, we knew why we didn't do that great.
But Babe is the superest hero of them all.
I know. But sometimes you can't compete with that Marvel or DC,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's true. It just be like that sometimes.
Yeah, so, it was a lot of fun. We tend to just right now we just have been sticking to the New England,
Okay.
but we definitely want to make our way to the West.
Well, one of the cool things about what we're doing right now, I think, meaning us interviewing you, is that you are kind of just localized on the East Coast, and a lot of our listeners, a lot of the people that we have met in person, because we all live out here, are over here. So I'm really hoping that this is going to open the door to Legends of Fomora to all of our listeners and people who didn't have the opportunity to see you at a convention on the East Coast last year. So that really makes me excited, because I'm telling you, last night I was like, my eyes were closing, but I wanted to finish and I wasn't able to. I had to do it this morning, but that's how engrossed I am. And for someone who's usually asleep on the couch by 8 p.m., that says a lot.
It does, actually. She's usually like in bed by like 8 p.m., 8:30, like, Jesus.
I mean, if you're waking up at 5 though.
Right.
Yeah. I wake up at like, I'm gonna say 7.
Yeah.
Weekends it's like 9. So yeah.
I had another quick question. You know how you were saying that the first convention you took your first book, was that also Kickstarter or was it self-published endeavor?
So that was self-published. We've been only doing self-published. This is our first Kickstarter.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Oh,
And how
okay.
has that worked out with the self-publishing? Because there's a lot of people that are creators out there that listen to the show. So what kind of advice do you have regarding self-publishing?
We really like it. We do really short runs. I think, like I said, last year was the most conventions we've ever been to. So we sold out of the short story of Forgotten Village. That's the short story that I did. So that was really exciting. We had never sold out before. And that was like midway, like that was like 3 conventions in, and we're like, what? Because we go to like really small conventions. So I think if we went to like a Comic-Con, like we'd have different numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah, self-publishing has really worked out. The books are really nice. We just started using Mixam for printing, and their quality is really good.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's cool.
So, where can our listeners follow this Kickstarter and or other future projects, and where can they find you online and on social media?
So you can find the Kickstarter on goatsheadbook.com, and there's, like you guys said, there's 5 days left. So please back the project. And we're on Facebook and Instagram at Goat's Head Studios. I don't have a Twitter, but Pat does, and his is Pat Nietupski. And we do have the website to preview the book, and that is FomoraComic.com.
Yes, check it out. You know, you talked about Forgotten Village. Is that what it was? Yeah. You can also read that online, and it's so good. It's so amazing. And it was part of the story as I was reading, but I was wondering, is it actually related to the story? Is it the same world? Is it? Okay.
So it is the same world. And that's the short story that I mentioned earlier that Pat had me write while he was in that little slump for Legends of Fomora. So it takes place in the same world, has the same kind of rules, but it follows different characters.
Right. I loved it.
I know you were talking about like creating. I think you're gonna create it on Earth. The next book coming up.
Yeah, so it's gonna be the next book is gonna take place in Jupiter. on Jupiter.
Oh, Jupiter. On Jupiter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's gonna be like, it's not gonna be same world as Legends of Fomora, but we're trying like something new, something sci-fi. I'm really excited to have Pat start to flesh out some of those characters, but we're gonna first work on getting this book published.
That's awesome. That actually, you answered my question. My next question was it going to be a crossover worlds kind of thing? But you just said it was going to be completely different. So that's exciting, though.
So Pat had a different idea. Pat's been like kicking around this idea about Mars. So we want those stories to interchange and like for the characters to meet and stuff like that. So we're just going to have two different worlds of where the stories are taking place.
Oh, right on. Cool.
Well, if those stories are written with even half the amount of plot development and character development as Legends of Fomora is, then I am all about it, and I can't wait to read that.
I'm so glad.
I'm so excited.
Awesome.
I'm excited to support the Kickstarter and maybe get some of those stickers and maybe a plush.
Oh, yes. I want to say there was a retailer level. Am I remembering correctly, Mardelle?
There is a retailer level, which we discount. You can get 5 books for a discounted price.
Okay, perfect. Well, I definitely am going to back at that level. And I know that we have some other retailers that are that listen to our show that we will definitely encourage them to do the same.
That's so great.
Yes.
Have you ever thought of like displaying your book at libraries?
So they only want we have, but they don't like the floppies. They want the full book.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay,
I
the
got
full
it,
graphic novel, yeah.
Yeah, they've told us before, like they've stopped at we did a convention out in Portland, Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, let us know when you get your big book. You can't put the floppies out.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, my favorite brewery is in Portland.
Ooh, which one?
Ooh.
Allagash.
Ooh, nice.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
My beer?
is there anything, Mardelle, that you want to share with our listeners that we didn't touch upon, or any last minute additions, or something that you just want to make sure stays in the minds of our listeners after they have seen this video or listened to the...
Yeah, just go back the project as soon as possible.
Yes, as soon as possible.
Got
So
5 days.
yes, it's 5 days as of when this will be uploaded. So then that will be Friday, July 17th. So if you're listening to this or watching this before, what's that, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22nd, then you still have time. You still have time to go back. Goat's Head Studios, Legends of Fomora. I keep on saying Zamora. Legends of Fomora. It is so amazing. Take it from Kristen, me, because I read as much as I was able to read, that what they gave me, and now I'm forced to back this Kickstarter because it was so freaking good. So back it, because you will not, I promise you, you will not regret it.
That is a
Yep.
that's high marks right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if we were rating this book, I would give it the whole panaderia. That's how
good it
much
was.
I liked it. Yes.
Same.
Oh, thanks.
Well,
I wasn't able to go as far as Kristen, but I did read like at least half of what was available, and I really loved it. It was really good.
Full disclosure, this is Sarah. I actually missed the comic. I thought that it wasn't completed, so I didn't see it in the email because I didn't read on. So I am disappointed that I did not read it, but I'm excited to read it now. I mean, the girls have never steered me wrong. I mean, they're always on top of it. So I'm just excited to just read it now.
Yes.
I'm back.
Thank you so much for being on our show. It has been such a pleasure to talk to you. It's really awesome to meet you. Thank you so much for being on our show. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we conclude this meeting?
Just thank you so much for having me and for all the great things you had to say about the book.
Absolutely. No lies detected.
Thank you so much for this meeting. And it's going to be like our first YouTube upload. So congratulations.
Welcome to our YouTube.
All right, guys. Well, that has been our episode. We have been your host. I'm Sarah.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Jen.
Bye.
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 Bye.